Hello, my dear students. We are studying labor law paper first, and under that paper, in that head, we are discussing the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act 1946. Under this act, we are discussing the today we are discussing the binding nature and effect of certified standing order. What would be the binding nature of the certified standing orders? And we'll take up one more topic, payment of subsistence allowance given under section 10A of the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act 1946. So first we'll talk about the binding nature and effect of certified standing orders. That how these certified standing orders are having a binding effect. And then we'll discuss about the payment of subsistence allowance given under section 10A. This is video lecture number 16. Binding nature and effect of certified standing orders. These certified standing orders represent the relevant terms and conditions of service in a statutory form, and they are binding on the parties at least as much, if not more, as private contract embodying similar terms and conditions of service. Regarding award, sometimes the nature of standing orders is like an award. So these certified standing orders represent the relevant terms and conditions of service. As we have discussed in our previous lectures, that the standing orders talks about the terms and conditions of services, and an employee is having this right that he must be aware that the establishment in which the employee or the workman is working, what are the terms and conditions, what are the rules there in that establishment. For example, if an employee wants to go for a leave, then he must be aware that what is the procedure. So the terms and conditions related to his or her services has to be there in the statutory form. So this is the binding nature of the certified standing orders. And sometimes these certified standing orders are having an effect like there is an award, or these standing orders would be treated as some authority has awarded something. Nature of the standing order, there is one important case related to this nature of the standing order. The Supreme Court in Bagalkot Cement Company Limited versus Pathan KK 1962 held that certified standing orders have statutory force. So in that case of Bagalkot Cement Company versus Pathan, Supreme Court held that the certified standing orders have statutory force, and after they are certified, they are having the statutory force and constitute the statutory terms of employment. So the binding nature of these certified standing order is that they have the statutory force, and they are, once they are certified, and they constitute the statutory terms of employment between the industrial establishment in question and their employees. So these certified standing orders constitute the statutory terms of employment between the industrial establishment where the workman is working, standing orders of that establishment, and their employees. So in this important and very famous case, Supreme Court held these two things, that having the certified standing orders are having the statutory force, and these certified standing orders constitute the statutory terms of employment between the industrial establishment in question and their employees. And again, in one more case, Western Indian Match Company versus Workman AIR 1964, the Supreme Court spoke in similar terms. The terms of employment specified in the standing order would prevail over the corresponding terms in the contract of service in existence at the time of the enforcement of the standing orders. So if there are some certified standing orders and there is a contract of service in existence, right? So the terms of employment which are specified in the standing orders would prevail over the corresponding terms in the contract of service in existence at the time of enforcement of the standing orders. So the weightage would be given to the certified standing orders rather than there is a contract of service between the employer. So whenever the employer is entering into a contract with the workman, the employer must clarify that these terms of the contract with the workman should not breach any provision of the standing orders. So it was the other case, Western Indian Match Company versus Workman. In this case, the Supreme Court has given this important verdict. And my dear students, you can see that these are the facts of the Bagalkot Cement Company Limited and Pathan. You can just read this case with the help of your own notes, or you can take help of these slides also. And a short question about the scope and effect of clause 5 in the schedule to the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act was there in that case. As I told you, the Bagalkot Cement Company Limited versus Pathan. And the standing orders have to be drafted by the employer, and their certification obtained under the act wherever the employer employs more than 100 industrial establishment, though now it has been reduced by the central government. If the appropriate government thinks fit, then 50 workmen are employed. It would be applicable. And so this is what about the standing orders, what is the binding force of the standing orders, or the binding nature. So the first one is the statutory force would be there, and sometimes it would be the standing orders would be treated as the reward also. I beg your pardon, award also. And now we talk about the other topic, the next topic, that is the section which is given under section 10A of the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act 1946, a payment of subsistence allowance. A payment of subsistence allowance. So where any workman is suspended by the employer and the investigation is pending, or inquiry into complaints or charges or of misconduct against the workman, the employer shall pay to such workman subsistence allowance. So what this section 10 says, it talks about that where any workman is suspended by the employer and the investigation is pending and the workman has been suspended, or there is an inquiry into the complaints or the charges of misconduct against him, the employer shall pay to such workman the subsistence allowance. And that subsistence allowance has to be at the rate of 50% of the wages which the workman was entitled to immediately preceding the date of such suspension for the first 90 days of the suspension, so that I mean, so we can say that the subsistence allowance would be at the rate of 50% of the wages, which this workman has entitled to immediately preceding the date of such suspension, what he was receiving prior to that suspension, of 50% of that, and for that amount he would be getting for first 90 days of the suspension. So I repeat, in case when the employee has been suspended, investigation is going on for that charge or the misconduct, then employer shall pay to such workman subsistence allowance, and that subsistence allowance has to be at the rate of 50% of the wages which the workman was entitled to immediately preceding the date of such suspension for the first 90 days of the suspension. And B, at the rate of 70%. In what case it would be 70% of such wages or for the remaining period of the suspension? If the delay in the completion of the disciplinary proceeding means it is more than 90 days, then the subsistence allowance would be 70% of those wages which he was receiving prior to the suspension. And this 70% would be if the delay in the completion of the disciplinary proceeding against such a workman is not directly attributable to the conduct of such a workman. So this delay is not because of the workman, or the workman is just not going for the impediments or any sort of hindrance in the inquiry. In that case, 90 days, that means the investigation is going over 90 days, then the rate of the subsistence allowance would be the 70% of such wages of remaining period of suspension. So these are the provisions for the subsistence allowance. And then section 10A also talks about in other subsection that if any dispute arises regarding the subsistence allowance, means the employer is giving some subsistence allowance, employee is demanding more subsistence allowance maybe, which is payable to a workman. Under subsection 1, the workman or the employer concerned may refer the dispute to the labor court. If there is a dispute between the employer and employee or the workman related to the subsistence allowance payable to the workman, then it may be referred to the labor court, constituted under Industrial Dispute Act 1947, and within the local limits of whose jurisdiction the industrial establishment wherein such workman is employed is situated, and the labor court to which the dispute is so referred shall, after giving the parties an opportunity of being heard, decide the dispute, and such decision shall be final and binding on the parties. So once there is a difference of opinion, there is a dispute related to that subsistence allowance, then this case may refer to the labor court, and both the parties, the employer as well as workman, would be provided an opportunity, and after hearing both the parties, the labor court will, after giving the parties an opportunity of being heard, decide the dispute, and such decision shall be final and binding on the parties. So labor court will decide the matter, and whatever decision labor court is giving, that would be final and would be binding on the parties. And notwithstanding anything contained in the foregoing provisions of this section, where provisions relating to the payment of subsistence allowance under any other law for the time being in force in any state are more beneficial than the provisions of this section, then the provisions of such other law shall be applicable to the payment of subsistence allowance in that state. So what this subsection is saying, section 10A, subsection is saying, it is saying that if any state, there are certain other provisions which are related to the subsistence allowance, and these provisions of that state law may give more benefits to the workman, then The provisions of such other laws shall be applicable in the payment of subsistence allowance in that state. Because see, the purpose of the labor laws is to provide all sort of benefits to the weaker section, to the labor class, right? So, my dear students, for that reason, if there is any other law prevailing in that state related to the subsistence allowance, and this law is giving more benefits to the workmen, then the provisions of that law which is prevailing in the state, that other law provisions would be means applicable to the payment of subsistence allowance in that state. So there are no deductions in the benefits, we can say in that way. So the either of the act is giving the more benefits would be applicable. And certifying officers and appellate authorities. Now we'll talk about the power of the certifying officers and appellate authorities also. Every certifying officer and appellate authority shall have all the powers of civil court for the purpose of receiving evidence, administering oaths, enforcing the attendance of witnesses. So all the certifying officers, appellate authorities, for the purpose of this act, they can or shall have all the powers of civil court for the purpose of receiving evidence, administering oaths, enforcing the attendance of the witness. And they may compel the discovery and production of documents also, as the civil courts are having this power also. So they can compel the discovery and production of documents and shall be deemed to be a civil code within the meaning of section 345, 346 of the Code of Criminal Procedure Code, Criminal Procedure 1973. So the appellate authority and certifying of authorities may exercise all the civil code powers, receiving evidence, administering oaths, enforcing the attendance of witnesses, and compelling the discovery and production of documents, and shall deem to be a civil code within the meaning of within the meaning of the Code of Criminal Procedure 1973. Clerical or arithmetical mistakes in any order passed by the certifying officer or appellate authority, or errors arising therein from any accidental slip or omission, may at any time be corrected by that officer or authority, or the successor in the office of such officer or authority, as the case may be. So there is provision that if there is any clerical or arithmetical mistake, that can be taken care of by the officer or the authority successor in the office. So this is all about for today's lecture, my dear students. I believe you have understood the certifying officers and appellate authorities powers, what powers they are having. They are having the powers like civil courts, and we have discussed the section 10A of the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act 1946, up payment of subsistence allowance. We have discussed that in what condition the suspended employee would be getting the subsistence allowance, 50% in which case, and 70% when he would be getting the 70% wages, right? So this we have done today, and we have gone through the important case Bagalkot Cement Company also, when we were covering the binding nature and effect of the certified standing orders. So this is all for today's lecture, my dear students. We have covered these important topics, and I believe these topics, today's lecture will be, helping you. Thank you so much for your patience listening. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care. Have a nice day.